By the way.
Well, welcome everybody to Gozo TV and to the Trick Podcast of Joy. So glad that you guys are here wherever you may be on this beautiful day. We're here in Southern California, and it's about 1,005 outside. It feels like we're
At least, yeah.
kind of feeling a little hot. We got our water. And my name is David Trigg, and I'm the host of something I'm so pumped about called Gozo TV, and especially today, something called the live webinar talking about fear in the middle of anxiety, depression in this culture of ours. How do we overcome fear? You know, the statistics are that over 40% of teens especially deal with fear. In the Latino population, the stats are that second to only immigration, fear and especially violence in the home is the most talked about topic in Latino families. So I'm joined today by some experts that have amazing experience in these issues of fear, anxiety, depression, especially when it comes to talking about our audience of teens, of youth, adults, and family. So I'm joined here to my right. I'm going to start with Gabi Turoldo. Gabi Turoldo is a mother of 5, a photographer. She's an entrepreneur as well as a nutritionist coach. So she loves to help people come up with a plan that is not going to break the bank and to be able to eat more healthy in the home. I'm also joined by my friend Monet Bonarise. She has a BS from the USC Keck School of Medicine in Health Promotion and Disease Prevention Studies. And so welcome, Monet, to the program. And I'm also joined by Dr. Peggy Lesnick, another great friend of mine. She is a relationship therapist. She helps so many people. She has her own practice. She has, I think, like 2 doctorates and 25 other degrees and so many letters next to her name. I can't even, fit her name in my TV show notes. But I'm so thankful for you, Dr. Peggy.
Thank you for having me.
You all have been a blessing in my life, as well as to many people. And so today we want to talk about this theme of fear. You know, I have first, before we get into kind of the crux of this, I have some jokes when it comes to fear, okay? So let's see if you guys can come up with the answer to these jokes. So what is, you know how like in fear we talk about phobias, right? Okay, so what is, and this is a little personal, what is Afrophobia? It's the fear of the return of the 70s hairstyle of the Jackson 5. Struggling with that today. Okay, so here's another one. Okay? So what is deja flu? Deja flu.
Has something to do with influenza.
Deja flu is the feeling that one has had this cold before.
Yeah. Or feeling, exactly. Right? Mm-hmm.
And then here's probably my favorite. This is called alpoplexy. What is alpoplexy?
Sounds.
If you have pets, what do you think?
Oh, from dog food.
Exactly. This is canine feeding disorder. So poor thing. So anyway, I like the alpha one myself. But we want to start with humor because fear, in many ways, kind of the antidote to fear. The scriptures say that the antidote and the way to really say goodbye to fear is by focusing on love. You know, faith is the antidote to fear. Love is the antidote to fear. We all know from scripture and from our own lives that when we focus on love, on loving ourselves, on loving God, on loving people, that fear goes bye-bye, goes out the window, which is what we want to do today. We want to say goodbye to fear. But here's the question that I have for you guys. The statistics say, again, that 40% of people deal with some sort of social anxiety, some sort of mental illness dealing with fear, with anxiety, with depression. Dr. Peg, I want to ask you first. Maybe out there in our audience here this morning, you have a family of 5. And their children, they begin to maybe act out in terms of anger, in terms of maybe not wanting to go to school. Maybe their diet isn't the best that it should be. In your practice and as a doctor, what have you noticed, where do you think fear is showing up in the culture today? Where is fear showing up?
That is a really wonderful and applicable and appropriate question to ask the panel today, and I would like to shed some light on where fear exists out there in our culture, and mostly it begins early in our lives especially I guess I can speak as being an American. Okay, it might be different on another continent, but I think that being in America, that we learn really early in life lots of signals, like how do we dress, how do our parents want us to act, what does my grandma want me to say, what does my teacher want me to do in order to get a good grade, does my girlfriend like what I'm wearing, and it all focuses on outwardly. So we are focused outward, out of ourselves. All right, and doing that, we develop sort of a false sense of who we are as people. So
it's almost like the outside doesn't really match the inside. Our inside is one thing, and our outside is another thing.
So let's take that a next step. So then in relationship, or how we deal with our friends or our parents or in our families, we begin then to have a false self, but not know exactly maybe who we really are, how God really wanted us to be. More, we are focused on the outward. Who are, what's going to make us look good. So now, okay, what happens at that point then is we reach some frustration when we're trying to say, who are we? Because maybe we have lost who we are. Okay? Now, and then further on down the road from that, we would say, okay, how can we have a relationship when we don't know who we are, or else we're based on the outside self? Now, my suggestion would be is to take the fear. For example, if I say, oh, I don't know if Trig is going to like me today. I don't know. I'm going to go in his house, sit down and be with everybody, the panelists. I don't know if he will like me today. So that's anxiety, that's fear, correct? So now what I would do within, first step is that I would begin to make a relationship with my fear. I would say, okay, fear, let me just develop a relationship with you.
So
I want to know.
In many ways, it's almost the opposite. I mean, where maybe most of us would say, I don't want to think that. I want to avoid that thought, or I want to be perfect. You're saying address the fear.
If you make a friend with your fear, and you can, if you make a friend, you make a friend with your fear.
That is powerful.
Then you begin to develop this relationship with the self. And now the more you can love yourself, then the more you would be able to love others or have others love you.
Yeah. So Monet,
and really quickly,
what are you thinking?
Along those same lines with making a relationship with the fear, there was a study that Harvard University put on through their National Scientific Council on the Developing Child that mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy as a way to get rid of fear. And rather than avoiding the fear, placing a child in, let's say it says, for example, research has shown that unlearning negative fear responses to specific stimuli, such as animals, insects, heights, or social situations, can be accomplished successfully by presenting the aversive stimulus or circumstance at a low level of intensity, while the fearful individual is in a safe context. So like you're saying, building that relationship slowly but surely. Don't thrust the child or don't thrust yourself as an individual in that situation. But little by little, you can build your relationship, and then it's strong. Then you can fight fear in the face and say, I got this,
I mean, the truth is in the moment, a lot of people can go to wonderful therapists and talk through these processes, which could take, a long time. But if you really want to be able to address the fear that all of us have, because we live here and we're very based on what we do, what we look like, do people like us, are we dressed properly? Especially, we were talking about the teenagers. The older people, we could kind of sort of care less about that. Right. But the younger, 18s to 30, year olds probably really concern themselves about those. So it would be more to develop the relationship with the self first.
So the idea of being a friend of fear. So I want to now move to you, Monet. Mm-hmm. You are an expert in the area of working with youth and teen. teens. You help them with their self-esteem. I know you have a love for our own daughters, and they have their own ups and downs with how exactly do they feel beautiful and how do they become famous in this new social media world. You mentor youth. Where are you seeing fear pop up as you go into these places? Where is fear showing up?
Great question. Kids are experiencing fear on many different levels, and that's where it starts. We're all big kids. And so whether it's in the classroom, if they have to share a science experiment, or if they have a passion for singing and they're just having difficulty taking that step, I think it's important to create a supportive environment for them to flourish and to encourage them each and every step of the way. I know my father, I'm also a singer-songwriter, and when I was younger, he would always say, okay, my daughter Monet is going to play the piano for you. Come on, Monet. And I'd look at him like, seriously? And I'd get so nervous about it. But each time, placing myself in that situation helped give me the strength. So now, sometimes I still do get nervous, but I have the experience to say, I got this. So in going, I also teach an acting improv class. And a lot of the kids will say, you know what, I'm too shy. I can't do that. Well, the first thing I say is, first of all, remove can't from your vocabulary, because you can do it. It just takes time, practice, and growth. So just, I think, creating that supportive environment and really letting them know that they can accomplish anything they set their mind to, that can definitely combat the fear.
And it's really showing up, kind of in terms of where it's showing up in expectations that others have of them. Now, I was reading some statistics. It's so amazing. The Today Show, with there's a special actually tonight by NBC with anchor Maria Shriver. They're doing a thing about anxiety among teens. And so I want to ask you guys, Gabby, I want to ask you next. It says here that 1 in 8 children suffers from anxiety disorder. 1 in 8 children. Wow. We're not even talking about us. We're talking about our children and eventually our own grandchildren. In fact, it says here that 1 in 8, or 10% of teens, deal with that. And then some more statistics. Social media. In the area of social media, it says here that some of the teens complain that social media has actually complicated their lives, forcing them to pretend they're outgoing, speaking of what you're just saying, and having fun when the reality is much different. Correct. So in the area of social media, Gabi, you as a mother of 5, as a photographer, you are constantly behind the camera looking at the best of people, right?
Yes.
And as someone who loves nutrition, how are you seeing fear show up when you're looking behind that camera? Where is it showing up, and what of this article speaks as truth, in your life?
Well, I'm a mother. I'm exposed all the time with other mothers and all kids in school. And I noticed this, that I talked last week about it, that with the fear that started at home start because the parents, especially the mother, transmit it to the kids. My own fears, I will pass it to the kids. Some kids don't have fears. They're fearless. But my own questioning, how they're going to do in middle school, how they're going to do in high school, are they going to be at the level of other children? I'm a Latina because I work a lot with Latinos too. I'm a Latina, how they're going to, be in the American white culture? Are they going to be, pushed away because they look Latino? And they asked me all these questions. And I said, you know what? You have fears. Your kid doesn't care about that. But you constantly talking about it instead of giving them the assurance that he is whatever he wants to be. He's going to be whatever he wants to be, and he can do all things. You know what? Sometimes I help in school, and in school you cannot talk too much about God. I don't know why, but you shouldn't stop talking about God. And sometimes the teachers love me for helping. So when I go around the tables, I help in elementary school. I go around the tables and I see a kid that is struggling with something. Yeah. And I go and I tell her publicly, you know what, so-and-so, you can do all things in Christ who give you the strength. And the teacher look at me, there you are, there you go. And it gives you the assurance to the kid, that they can do all things. And I said, what can you do? What it says? All. It means everything. just set up your mind. And then something that I would like to talk in this morning is about the mind. How we every day we talk between 12 to 14 hours to ourselves. We talk to ourselves. So what are we telling ourselves? And we talk about fear. We more fearful, and we have like 50. By average, we have like 50 stress responses every day. By average, a person. So how do you respond on that? We just, I think we just go with the flow. And I will tell parents, start with the parents at home. I work with children for many years, but then I like to work with mothers, because eventually those children are going back home. And the center is the home, the parenting is the answering. So I need to address, or I think I have the need to address moms.
So I want to hold off a little bit on how to solve fear, because I think that's going to be so powerful. So as I'm summarizing a little bit of where fear is showing up, it's showing up on social media. It's showing up in this idea of the true self versus the false self. It's showing up in the area of expectations from parents, is what kind of I'm hearing. So I want to go to our tweet feed here at David Trigg LA. So guys, if you have a question, as you're out there experiencing and hearing some amazing content from our guests, you can tweet your question to @DavidTriggLA, and we will actually, just kind of read it and be able to present it to the panel as far as kind of some of our advice. So here's a question from @Tom Doherty. So thank you, Tom, for your question. Here it is. It says, do you recommend to our panel earthing, grounding to your patients to help with their anxiety? If not, why not? This has seriously helped me. So earthing, grounding, my guess, is speaking to the idea of maybe more non-traditional methods, perhaps, of how to deal with anxiety. Gabi, I wanted to ask you first. What are your thoughts on this idea of earthing and grounding and helping patients through this with their anxiety? What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts in general regarding more natural methods?
I'm a believer that the body has the power of heal itself. God made us a beautiful body, and I believe we are what we eat. We need to start with nutrition, and that's going to help, because sometimes we suffer from anxiety is because we lacking in something in our body. And I don't know, there's many cases. We should address one case, for example. And when women, we talked last week, they go over the 40s and then start having these problems. Well, they need to address what's going on in their body, why the body is not absorbing nutrition, and then let's see what they need. But I think natural medicine for me is, like you said, prevention. Prevention is the best thing you can do, and I would like you to answer that.
Yeah, along those same lines, to promote healthy behaviors, you can prevent the disease of the mind, just being anxious and being fearful, staying hydrated, drinking water. It's so important. Water keeps your cells energized, it keeps you hydrated, and it keeps you thinking clearly. Another thing that's important is rest, making sure you're getting sufficient sleep. Yes, because I know it's really hard with all of our lifestyles and with parents, with kids, with all the homework that they're pouring on these kids. It's so hard to get sleep. But without it, they won't be able to do as well on tests. People in general, just driving now, if you have to go to and fro from place to place. So drinking water, eating vegetables, the colorful ones, the green, spinach, broccoli, all the colorful, beautiful bell peppers. Just find ways to incorporate all these nutrients, all these fruits and vegetables into your diet so that you can alleviate stress and be able to think with a clearer mind. Sorry, I don't know why my but yeah, so stay hydrated, drinking your water, eating healthy, and staying physically active. When you exercise, you can release endorphins, which are your body's natural drug of choice. It's healthy and it keeps, yes, and it makes you feel great about yourself. So by doing that, you can combat depression, you can combat the anxiety that you experience in life. So Dr. Peggy, would you
As
like?
far as natural approaches, what have you seen out there that works? What are people doing as non-traditional approaches to anxiety and fear?
Well, I wanted to address his grounding also.
Yes.
He might be speaking specifically about more like solution focused therapy, which would be more grounding, would be like making a plan for himself, a structure, because there isn't a lot of structure out there with people. And I think that we all kind of tapped in on the fact that people have high expectations. In their day, and these specific important ones like sleep and nutrition, they kind of end at the bottom of the rung. Okay, and notably, I was listening to you also quickly about college students and the nutrition factor. I mean, I was a college student too at one time, and I don't think I really ever ate much of anything. And I really don't when I think back, because I had so much to do. So I'm thinking, you know what? That probably affected my work in a lot of ways. And it's very, very important.
Older people, and they have a different way of eating, different than me. I'm coming from Argentina, super, I was involved in every sport. I will eat you alive because I was so young, and active. So suddenly I came to live with a family that they were older. They will start eating like not too much, and I was always hungry. And every time they will make beef, I will say, don't take the fat out of the beef. And they will say, no, the fat is bad. And I say, no, actually, that feeds my brain. Don't take it out. At my age, I need some kind of fat. They wouldn't allow me to eat it. So I start having physical problems, little things, because I was changing my diet. And I think they lack in they were great. They're great people and everything, but they lacking in the information. And I know that it's nice to start reading about nutrition and what is good about in our bodies. So that's why parents, there's a lot of information there online. Books, go to the library, ask your friends. I talk to everybody. I get my information from every human being around me. What do you do? And it's the best way we can do it. And that's the learning experience. Everybody's going to react different. But I think you as parents need to start training your child since they're little, and choices, how to eat. Train your child on the way, and then they're going to just, even when they're old, they will keep eating healthy. And that's the way.
So
even though, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to maybe change gears a little bit, kind of move to another question that I had. So we're talking about this idea of fear and how love is the antidote to fear. Faith, truly is what dispels fear, whether it's how we look or whether it's in school, etc. So I've been reading this passage out of Joshua chapter 1, and a lot of people out there may know Joshua was a young guy who came after Moses. Okay, so you know how like sometimes you're the teacher that comes after that amazing founding teacher, or maybe you're that mom who comes into the PTA and the previous PTA president was like, there's like a statue built to her. Those places where you come in and you're the second person, and it causes a lot of fear. So Joshua was this kind of person. He was a young man who comes after Moses. And he's afraid. He had to actually bring the people of Israel into the promised land, into the fulfillment of what God had in store for his people. And so naturally, Joshua, as a young guy, he's just scared to death. He's like, I cannot be Moses, God. How can I do this? So God, I want to read this amazing passage in Joshua chapter 1, verse 7. He tells Joshua, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. And the story goes on to say that after Joshua hears this amazing instruction from God, then he then goes and prepares everybody. And so he tells everybody, consecrate yourself, be holy. Then what they do is they walk to the edge of this Jordan River. This amazing, and apparently in that season it was flooded. So it was like the ocean. It would be like the Pacific Ocean here in California. And what they do is they go into this amazing, this river, and they actually take the Ark of God first, and they worship God. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, after they go through the Jordan River, and the ocean or the river actually opens up and they pass through, Joshua tells people, 12 tribes, to each tribe grab a stone and to put in the middle of the river a stone of remembrance. Mm-hmm. So that later, generations pass, their children, their grandchildren will be able to look back at these 12 stones in the middle of the river and look back with gratitude. Mm-hmm. So for God, in this passage, what I notice is God says, do not fear. And what does he tell Joshua? First is be holy. Mm-hmm. Consecrate yourself. Mm-hmm. Be clean. Have a pure spirit. Second, he says, worship me. Put the Ark of God first. Before you enter, before you do take action, put me first. Worship me first. And then third, he says, look back with gratitude. Be grateful. And I want to ask you guys, maybe there's one of those that really kind of impacts you. When it comes to overcoming fear in your own lives, if we can talk a little bit more about even us and the people that we see. Whether it's consecrating yourself, holiness, whether it's worshiping God, putting him first, whether it's this idea of looking back with gratitude. What has helped you the most personally to dispel fear, to put faith over fear, to say goodbye to fear? So I wanted to start with you, Dr. Peggy. Yeah, ciao. Adios. I want to ask you, Dr. Peggy, how do you connect to the story of Joshua, and what has helped you dispel fear?
Well, I think that there's a two-part answer to that for me. In the global sense, to respond to what you were talking about, and by the way, I love that story. That's awesome. I think many of us will follow the way of the Lord in everything we do to the best of our abilities. And in doing so, we have to take the next step to break it down to what it does it mean in the human way for us to do in the everyday life that we live right now. What can we do? And that would mean to be very conscious and very present in the moment of having that relationship with the Lord, and also to say, okay, what fear am I having right now? And again, to address that in us in the moment. Yeah. So let's say I'm getting up in bed, and then I'll say, I'm really excited about today. It's going to be great. I have a really great attitude. And then all of a sudden, maybe I'll get something in my stomach, and I'll go, okay, well, I love the Lord. I'm prayerful. I'm meditative. I'm accepting of what is going to come to me. I'm going to make a decision to address what is this fear inside of me. So it's not just enough. I mean, it is enough, obviously, to love the Lord, but I'm also saying that we have to make a conscious decision to seek him, and a conscious decision to address what that fear is. And in that way, we can make a friend with the fear. And that's what I do. I don't let it stoop to an out of control spiral down, because once you know yourself and you see, okay, I'm feeling this way. It's getting worse now. And now what am I going to do? Okay, so there's a spiral down. And once you understand yourself and you can feel this is coming on, it's best to really address what that feeling is and begin to try to make a friend with it. And it's something that we can all do pretty much by ourselves to address that fear. So that's what I do. It'll come up and I'll address it. Of course, if there's an emergency, maybe I can address it in the moment. But another thing to think about too is when you have a fear that's a repetitive fear that comes up for you on a regular basis, that is a sign that you really do need some more processing, and maybe to see a professional about it, that it's something that you can't get over the hump of understanding it, and it's important to process that out. Remember, where two or more are present, so is the Lord. And so sometimes the relationship with you and him just needs maybe a help from a therapist to help you get over that, if it's a repetitive fear that comes up. That's my suggestion.
That's awesome.
Okay.
So, Monet, I wanted to ask you a similar question. So, here's Joshua, and he's got this huge task in front of him. I'm sure
It's like,
you have to
scary.
exactly. You being an actress, singer, every time that you perform, I'm sure there's some process of,
Right.
don't do this.
Right.
This is too big a task.
It's like the heart starts racing, and it's like, okay.
So what do you do? What do you do as far as how to overcome that fear?
So first thing, I acknowledge, it's like, okay, I can do this. I got this. So it's as simple as claiming that, and then I take deep breaths. It's like, okay, woosah, I got this. Woosah, take the breath, and I pray. And there's a scripture in Jeremiah. Before I knew you in the womb, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you to a prophet to the nations, says the Lord, right? Alas, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. But the Lord said to me, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. So whenever I'm going to go out and speak in public or perform, whatever it is, I always say, okay, Lord, before you formed me, you knew I was going to be in this situation, and I'm fully capable because you will put the words in my mouth to say. And sometimes I find myself saying some really deep stuff, and I'm like, what? That did not come from me. It's the Holy Spirit, and just acknowledging that none of us are perfect. That is another key to removing fear or making fear your friend.
Yeah.
Being like, okay, I'm an imperfect person, but I got this.
Yeah.
I can go out staying rested, staying hydrated, eating healthy, staying physically active. All of that can come together for that moment in time where you go out there and then you conquer it. You look fear in the face and you say, bye-bye, adios, que te vaya bien. Like, see you later, ciao, fear. Hasta la pasta. I love it.
No, but you can also realize that it's going to happen on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the humanness. It's the humanness. Okay, so if we recognize that, then it helps diminish the fear feeling that you get inside of you.
Yeah, I love my spiritual coach and therapist. He's always telling me it's just a feeling, Dave. It's a strong feeling, but it's just a feeling. And then he quickly says, how do we calm that fear? Man, it's so powerful when he just kind of opens up that door to what I'm going through. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, I have a rash. Oh, I didn't eat enough. Oh, I had too many burritos last night. Oh, I know my money's going. Oh, the stock market. He's like, it's just a feeling. It's a very strong feeling. I'm like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
But then he says, how do we calm that feeling down? And then I bring out my yellow pads. Man, I have stacks of yellow pads. And I have my plan.
And a lot of people say fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
So it's like you're saying, it's that feeling, but you're making it real because of your response. So if you say, okay, you know what? It's just a feeling. I got this.
Right, I got this.
And you visualize it, and you can even visualize like beating it down or, seeing it as a wall and giving yourself a hammer and just knocking it down. You got this.
That visualizing is so powerful. I mean, I think as Dr. Peggy said, we fill our minds with so many images that are negative. Oh no, the sky's falling. How about filling our minds with positive and with strong images?
Exactly.
So a tool would be that a person can sit, even if it can only be for 2 minutes. I recognize some people can only sit for 30 seconds or whatever, but you can sit and then allow the feeling to come in, the thought will come in, and then you let it pass through to the other side. So you don't stop it. You have to acknowledge it. I feel that. And then you let it go to the other side of your brain and out. So you don't fight it. You have to allow yourself to have it because that's self-respect and that's love. Okay?
Awesome.
So I have a question back to our Twitter feed. Thank you again, guys, for those of you that are tweeting us here during our live webinar. It's been so fun. From Toast at Psych Toast on Twitter, he has a question. He says, how do you stop anxiety from causing social withdrawal? Social withdrawal. Gabby, would you like to speak to that? How do you stop anxiety from causing social? In other words, I don't want to go to that party. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to work. That can be kind of damaging. How do you stop that when you're dealing
What
with
is his
anxiety?
what is his anxiety? He needs to ask what is his
Right. So
anxiety.
that would
So
be the
let's
first
ask
thing.
him
Let's ask.
what is your anxiety? And as soon as you can understand what is my trigger, we'll call it a trigger. What's my trigger? Then he's able to break that down from that. But I mean, that's a generalized question. He's obviously has a lot of anxiety, this gentleman, this person, right? So he's going to have to be able to break that down and say, okay, it's not the whole world. It's not globally. The sky is not falling down. Okay. But okay, my specific anxiety is when I put my shoes on to go to meet this person, I start to freak out. Okay. So we have to begin to make a friend with that particular trigger that we're having. Okay. Gabby, did you want to say something?
Well, sometimes I use my own experiences, because we, like you said, we know our own fears. We don't know his fears. Who knows what's going on in his head? But like we were talking about Joshua before and the Bible, and it says, I give you this book, don't depart this book from your mouth. It tells me, right? And and one day I was going through some kind of anxiety, and I go through this verse in the Bible, and I say, what does that mean? What do I do with the mouth? What do I do? And I say, oh, I speak with the mouth. So I need to speak loud. Sometimes we thinking, but we need to make those thoughts verbal, and we talk to ourselves, and confront our own fears, and says, I am fearful for this. Okay, then you said, medically is like you make friend with your own fear. The Bible says that God will say it already. And the other one, that God tell us that sometimes we believe that God is going to do it for us, but it's not. He says, renew your mind every day. So that's my responsibility.
Yeah,
you
the
know
mind. So
the
it
mind.
needs to be renewed by God.
And
Yeah.
and people ask, how am I going to renew my mind? What is this thing? And it's how you talk to yourself every day. You talk, you get up, and you empower yourself with beautiful words. Call things are not as they were. If I feel sick, I am healthy. If I feel ugly, I am beautiful. Just call things are not as they were. And constantly remind yourself that you're not alone. And like you read that passage in the Bible, I remember Isaiah 44:2 that says, I am your creator. I know you long before I care of you before you were born. And we need to remind ourselves. Some people out there, sometimes they don't know the Lord, and that's the reality. Or they don't know the Bible. And I tell them because I learned that when you buy something, a machine or something, you read the instructions, right? Because you don't know how to use it. Well, our creator is God. So the instructions he sent us with instruction is his holy word. So we need to start reading it because it's talking to us. It's life. The word is life. And it travels all over. We can speak about somebody, and it's like our word has the power. To get to that person even when that person is not present.
And I wanted to ask you, Gabi, how practically do you? Because I love your passion for the word. It's life changing. So maybe give our viewers a little bit of your own tradition. How do you study the Bible? What do you do to kind of get into that and to fill your mind with the scriptures? What do you do on a daily basis?
A daily basis, when I get up, I have gratitude. I think the first step of feeling good is be grateful, grateful, and get up and says, thank you, God.
Yeah.
I say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you because I have this bed. I've been hot last night. I could not sleep, but I have this beautiful bed, Right. So we can find a lot of things, to be unhappy with.
Yeah.
But we need to find the things that make us happy. I have a bathroom, I have a shower, I have running water, I have a fridge that I open and I have everything that I need, so find those things, be grateful. And then I like to feed my mind with positive. You can listen to, and this is I was remembering this song from Selena. I don't know if remember that singer that passed away. And she had a song that is stuck in my mind, and her song is it says no me queda más, and like it was like I don't have another option. I know I don't. The song pretty much says I don't have another option that drown myself in tears, and it was the most depressing thing. But the beat was so, it got into my mind, my brain. I was singing that all day long for months, and I said, "Oh, I have this song stuck in my mind." And one day I said, "Oh my God, I've been stressed." And I've been singing that. I was telling my brain that my only option is just to drown in tears.
That song was like getting in there.
And where people don't understand that we have a subconscious that is taking everything literally. Our conscience, we know it says it's just a song, but our unconscious is not as smart and is taking every word literally. And it's our body reacting with the words that we're feeding.
So now I want to ask you guys.
Can I say something real quick? Yes.
Then I have another question. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I know people suffer through breakups or they get into these bouts of depression, and the first thing you want to do is turn on the radio or find a heartbreak song and just start crying and just
Pity party, right?
pity party. I've been there.
Misery loves company.
Exactly. But rather than doing that, because it's the battle of the mind, to choose something that's opposite, choose something that's happy, even though you may not be feeling that way at the time. It's not going to do you any justice to listen to the heartbreak songs. And another thing you were mentioning was about the battle of the mind, and it starts in the mind. Rather than focusing on fear, I know we're talking about fear, we should focus on faith and focus on overcoming it and not giving the fear the power, because the power is in knowing that you can conquer it, not in acknowledging it. So
we are more than conquerors,
Say it one more time. I don't know.
We are more than conquerors,
So I wanted to ask you guys just kind of a closing illustration or a story, something that I experienced just about a month ago. And maybe we can all pitch in on kind of what we would do. Speaking of solutions, speaking of mind, spirit, body, health, all these important things. So I was at a farmer's market, and I had a table passing out invitations to this mentorship program that I was helping with in the summer. And so I was playing my guitar and just having a good old time. And this 11-year-old boy, 10, 11-year-old boy, Alex, he comes up to the table. And he's like, do you know any Bruno Mars songs?
Of course.
I'm like, of course, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, I know a few. I mean, and I was like, okay, Bruno Mars songs. And he's like, well, do you know if I was your boyfriend, or what's that one called? If I was
If I were your man.
If I was your man, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of know that. So he's like, okay. It was like happening like that week. Some money from the people, and he wanted me to play guitar with him. So bottom line, we did, and he got like $20, And I said, okay, Alex, like the only way it's gonna work is if you come to this mentorship program. So he came to play. I said, but here's the thing. Wow. So after we got talking about it, I'm like,
that's
Alex,
the cutest story.
And he sang really good actually. But I'm like, Alex, like, don't you have like anything else you're doing this summer? Blah blah. He's like, well, I'm really afraid to go home. And I'm like, and this is kind of where it gets a little emotional because I can relate in so many ways. He said, I have a lot of fear of going home because my parents fight a lot over money. And he said, that's the thing that I don't want to go home because it's constant fighting about. And he didn't say all this, but he said finances. He actually used the word finances.
Wow.
And so, I immediately went back to those times in my own childhood. My parents didn't fight, but I was always afraid that I would be sent back, that I would be without my grandmother who raised me. And so these fears that I was kind of feeling in him kind of brought me back. And yet it was so amazing how music, it saved him. It was saving him, and music saved me in many ways. I want to ask you guys, maybe along those lines of that story of this young man, put yourself in his shoes. What would you tell Alex as far as hope, overcoming fear, bringing it down to Alex himself? Uh, Dr. Peggy, what would you say to Alex? What would you say to his family if you were to be in his home? How would you help him? How would you start this?
He gets to move out at 18. It's a good start. Well, I'm not going to pretty the picture up. I mean, sadly, there is this kind of stress level in many homes, and that's true. And I think it affects him. The fact that he's saying that it affects him, to me, is he's in a healing process already. Okay, a multitude of teenagers or even spouses will just shut down and not have this conversation within the home, and just it will come out in arguments. So let's say that he is having this conversation with him already. Okay, and when he's having this conversation with himself already, then he would gain from some support. Now, it doesn't seem like his parents are very supportive, and I think that's sometimes the humanness of the parents fail their children because they get caught up in their own expectations of the family. And your question is to me is what can Alex do? And I believe that he is doing it by addressing it, by reaching out and talking to as many people as he can about the situation. Okay?
It was so,
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, I was thankful that he told me.
Yeah, because you're approachable. You're approachable and you were there for them. Honestly, in my life, I will never turn down anybody that comes to me that wants to talk to me because they're showing up and they're asking to express themselves. I don't care where I am. I will make the time to do that because I feel like that's my calling to do that. And if I can do that, I will do that. So on the resolution for him is that he does live in a family that has this. And I think also his personality might be very sensitive to that. Do you know what I mean? There's called an emotional intelligence. Some people have high emotional intelligence, and it really messes with them when they hear other people arguing. It's very hard for them to be in that situation. I would have him to continue to address people when he's out and about. I would seek maybe going to a church, or I would go to Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I would seek out people that I could continuously process through. Listen, I have counseled many people that have this kind of household going on, and the person like Alex, it becomes the identified patient in the family. They will identify him as the sick one because he's not willing to argue and be in their argumentative ballet that they play out in their home all the time. They put him on drugs, and they call him ADHD, and they call him conduct disorder people and all these kind of things, when in reality they just cannot take in this amount of argumentativeness that happens. So for him to get involved in an exercise program, for him to take care of himself the best that he can, and sadly, his parents aren't stepping up for him, and so there isn't that bond there. But the Lord is there, and so are people like yourself, like myself, like yourself, and he needs to just keep on, getting up, reaching out for others to seek resolution and a peace of mind in the moment for him to be okay in the moment in his day.
Awesome. What would you say, Gabby, what would you say to Alex? What kind of advice would you give?
You know what? For many years, I talked to many Alexes out there. Every time I'm like you, I'm passionate about stopping in the middle of the street. Somebody want to talk, and if they don't want to talk, I talk anyway. If I see something, I just go and walk because I know God has a purpose for me to say, and I'll do it. But for many years, I raised kids that were not mine. And parents sometimes are lazy. They don't want to be responsible for.
Parents are lazy?
See, some parents are lazy.
What?
They don't want to take responsibility to be their spiritual guidance, their counselor,
Yeah.
you know, and they allow their, oh, you know what, you want to take my kids to church, take them. And I took, and I don't regret it. I love taking kids to church, and I took them and I teach the Bible. But what if I am not that person? You know, and you have to be careful. If you don't raise your child, you don't talk to your children, there's a lot of people that wants to do it for you, you know, and not everybody is good. Not everybody wants the best for your children. And that's why I love talking to parents first, because that's the root of the problem. You know, they transmit the fears, they have problem, and they forgetting that they have a great responsibility that God gave them, is the life of that child. You know, sometimes I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these 5 children are my responsibility. You know, no matter how old they are my responsibility. And sometimes I have other children that comes to my home, and they're my responsibility. I love them as mine, and I just speak as their mother, you know, and they listen. So I have to be very careful what I say, how I say it, you know. But many people are coming now in school, especially, and they tell him, oh, the teacher is telling me that my son is having this problem, to take him to take medication. You know, your son is very sick, I said. What you mean? Yes, it had a sickness that is called childhood. I said, it's a child, you know, they're supposed to scream, run, be happy, you know, explore, and drive you nuts.
You know, one of the things that I hear a lot from children, I volunteer at our kids' school, is we're just kids.
Yeah.
Just let us be kids. And it's something I think we struggle with that. We think
and parents
it should be better than they
and I always say this phrase in Spanish, oh, if I'm be a kid, brincos diera si fuera niño de nuevo, you know? Yes, you know, I would jump for joy if I'm a kid again, you know? Because remember, if you can see through a kid's eye, you just made it. You know, we forget that we were a child, and the way we see things, we cannot see it the way the kids see it. So, and for Alex, or it could be John, Javier, any of those kids that are eager to ask questions, if you have a minute and you see a child like that, stop. You know, do like my friend, just go and play guitar for some money. Do something that his parents are not there to do it. You know, just do it. You know, it's not a waste of time. It's just you investing in that future kid that is going to be a future adult. So it's an investment. Children are a investment. So love them, enjoy them, you know.
Monet, you obviously deal with this a lot. I mean, you give in yourself educationally, and your nonprofit Monet Cares. So I want to make sure that everyone there gets a chance to check out her purple bag. And, Monet Cares blocks. You know, we want to overcome fear as a young person, as a teen. MonetCares.org.
MONETCARES.
And I know you have all kinds of things, and we'll talk about that in a second for all of us. But so you deal with teens and youth, like Alex, like you were saying, all the time.
All the time, yeah.
You know, put yourself in his shoes, and you're there with him. Maybe at his house. Maybe you're playing guitar or piano with him. What do you say to him? How does he overcome that fear to go home because of parents that are fighting over finances?
Well, first of all, it's definitely a scary feeling when you're young and you're hearing all these arguments. Even when you're older, it's not a comfortable feeling to be in a tense environment. But music heals. And so finding Bruno Mars, but kids use, whether it's acting, whether it's just finding some kind of outlet that's not drugs, because if you don't push a positive outlet for them, they'll steer toward, you know, retreating and just isolating themselves. So I would encourage him to continue with his music, because he has a beautiful voice, and I'd find a way to maybe find someone to donate a guitar to him so he can pick it up himself and have something he can use his experiences as material, as a songwriter or poetry, or just finding a way to fuel, express that anger, the frustration, the hurt, the pain into a positive vehicle to inspire others. And he can serve as, there's other people who are experiencing what he's experiencing as well, and letting him know that someday, it could be tomorrow, one of your friends might be going through the same thing, and you can serve as that role model to encourage him, like, look, I got through it, this is what I do, and encourage him, and then it's just like a spiral effect. So gozo is, joy is the root of all of it. Finding joy in the midst of chaos. How do you do that? You pour in love into the situation, and you combat the fear and through compassion and just saying, I can do this. I can get through this situation. And if I was in the room with him, I'd be like, we can get through this together. So.
I appreciate that. And I have learned so much from you guys, just not just today, but over the last few months and years that I've known some of you. And I just want to tell you guys what a legit panel this is. And again, I don't want to get emotional because my daughters have been so moved by Monet, and you hear this energy from her, from all of these amazing people. But I have two teenage daughters who are amazing artists. They're famous. One of them is
yeah, she's got like over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
And you truly have cared for them, and so I really appreciate that.
Oh.
Because what you're saying is legit. You're not just kind of talking here. You really have done that. You challenge, them in many ways to say, hey, fame doesn't get you anywhere. It's about you making that choice to be vulnerable, to be in relationships. So I appreciate that tremendously.
Well, thank you. It is an honor to be able to inspire them, doing what little words, what the actions that I'm able to do. And just being here amongst such prestigious, wonderful people.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to just, once again, before we do all the thank yous and goodbyes, I wanted just to, Dr. Peggy, to wrap up, tell us how can people get a hold of you? How can people reach you? Your practice, obviously, is amazing, and you've, again, been a blessing to me. You've helped me tremendously. How can people reach you? Your Facebook, your email, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Go around the horn here.
Great. Okay, so PeggyLesnickTherapy.com is my webpage. I'm a licensed clinician, and I can serve people, and I do serve troops, overseas, whatever, Skyping, telephone therapy, or in-your-face therapy. A lot of people in Los Angeles have a hard drive, to get places, so now it's turning more, thank goodness, to more like Skyping and telephone therapy. But I have a practice, and I like it, and I welcome anyone that has any questions to contact me. It's Peggy Lesnick Therapy.
And can you spell it for them?
Sure. It's Peggy, Peggy, Lesnick, Lesnick, therapy.com. And I have two offices, one on the USC campus in Southern California. The other one is up in Glendale in the beautiful hills up there. And then also out near the Marine base in Yucca Valley. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Monet, as we said, we talked about Monet Cares. Tell us what you have coming up here in the next few weeks, few months.
So we have plenty of events coming up. Currently, we have an acting class through the city of Pasadena at the Teen Center every Thursday from 4:30 to 5:30, building self-confidence, the ability to think on your feet. November 16th, we have a fashion show fundraiser. So if you have a beautiful daughter like David over here, two of them, yes, two very beautiful daughters. We're looking for young ladies and young men to serve as models, and we have a lot of events, so you can check us out on our website, monetcares.org. That's monetcares.org. For my personal website, you can find me on monetboneris.com. So that's monetbaggneris.com. I have a personal concert coming up October 11th. Yes, so I'm performing original songs with some amazing artists. And yeah, so perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Ms. Gabi Turoda, please tell us, you're a photographer, you have all kinds of stuff. Tell me, how can we reach you?
You can't. No, yes, you do. You can.
You got this. You
It
got
took
this.
years. Here I go. Yeah, I can do it. Bye-bye, Fear.
Oh my name is Gabby Turoldo, and you can find me. Well, you can go to my website to see my work. I'm a photographer, and I'm actually working with a new plan project with young girls. To take their fears. Like when you tell somebody, okay, pose, and they're afraid. Yeah, well, they're when they're alone, they can do their selfies and stuff, but when you really tell them in public, they can't. So they just freeze there. So I'm talking to their minds, how to open up and it take the best out of them. It's like I do life coaching is my passion. So you can reach me and you can just send me an email or to Gabby at tntphoto.com, or my company is tntphoto.com. And or TNT photography, you're gonna find me in any way, and you can make yourself my friend in Facebook. I love it. I love it. I like to have friends on Facebook. So yes, and my name in Facebook is Gabby Turoldo, the same one.
Can you
So
spell it for everyone?
Yes.
GabyTuroldo. That's my last name. That's So you can find me, ask me questions. I love to talk to people about health, about anything that you like to talk, So
Awesome. Okay, so before we wrap up with all of our kind of upcoming events, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the next few weeks. We are the Gozo TV and the Trick Podcast for Joy people. We're Gozo Heads, Gozo Nation. We are the Gozo family.
Woo!
We are.
Yeah, Gozo.
Gozo. So I know. So I have a joke, because part of our tradition is to wrap up with a joke. So here it is. We're talking a lot about children, and then I have a beautiful dog. And anybody have dogs or cats?
I do.
Okay,
Have
so
one.
that's okay. So here's some jokes. So remember, dogs and cats are better than children because 1, they eat less. 2, they usually come when called. Number 3, they're easier to train. Okay. Number 5, they don't drink or smoke.
Yes.
Number 6, they don't hang out with friends who use drugs. Number 7, they never ask to drive the car. Number 8, they don't have to have the latest fashions. Number 9, they don't want to wear your clothes. Number 10.
some of them will eat.
Yeah. Number 10, I think Peggy and I can relate to this. They don't need $1 gazillion for college.
Yes.
Yeah. And remember, dogs and cats are better than children because number 11, if they get pregnant, you can sell their children. That's bad. I'm sorry. That was terrible. The producer handed it to me. I had no choice. Okay. Alec, please no more jokes from you, okay, buddy?
I like how you defer.
Exactly. I know. See, I'm learning. See, defer. Yeah.
Well, but I have the best one that
Okay,
you asked my husband, what's your favorite animal, and he said medium rare.
Oh boy, we're crossing all kinds of lines here.
Yeah.
Animal advocates are
I got
calling us
one.
right now. Oh,
I
yeah.
got a safe one.
Good. Yeah, we need
Which-
safe. Yeah.
I think my sister made this up. Which fruit is afraid of marriage?
Ooh.
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe.
Oh, no.
That would be a
Alec, our producer, you gotta get in here, man. Stop this right now. Yeah, right. Well, Gozo Nation, I want to thank you for this amazing webinar. Let's check in next Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're going to be here live once again. Next week, we're going to be talking about another kind of important topic, which is the topic of addictions. Something that is hard to talk about, but we have to go there. Sexual addictions, drug, all kinds of stuff that we deal with as humans. But we want to give you gozo. We want to give you hope. We want to be able to help you overcome these things. And it's not easy. It's not like, hey, done deal in 20 minutes. But we do want to be a place, a source of joy for you. There's so many negative things out there, so many ways that we can go down the wrong track. But we want to be able to, again, help you overcome fear, anxiety, depression, addictions, whatever it may be. Thank you again for being here, Gozo Nation. Thank you so much for being here at this Google Hangout. Thank you to all of our studio audience for being here. Have a great rest of the day. I will see you next time. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, cheers.